She was beautiful, but beauty was her weapon. Lena Morrow was 24, a pharmacist in a small town, but to those who didn't know her, she seemed like someone far out of their league. Her hair was dark and sleek, always pulled back in a professional ponytail, but her smile could break through the coldest of facades. She knew what it meant to be wanted, and more importantly, she knew how to keep that desire alive in men. But it wasn't just her looks that made men flock to her. It was the way she made them feel, like they were the only man in the room, the only one who mattered. The power she held wasn't just in the shelves of pills she managed every day. It was in the way she could read a person with a glance, find their weakness, and exploit it. Her colleagues thought of her as the sweet, professional pharmacist, the one who always helped when someone asked. They didn't know what she did outside of work, and they never asked. After all, she was their perfect image of professionalism. But behind the counter, behind the white coat, Lena had her own secret.
It was always the same routine. A man would walk into the pharmacy, a little hesitation in his step, a glance at the rows of over-the-counter medications, maybe a headache, maybe a sore throat, something simple. But Lena saw the opportunity in every man who stepped through the door. She'd greet him with that perfect smile, a smile that said, "I know you. I can make you feel better." "Can I help you with something today?" she'd ask, her voice smooth, coaxing. And they'd always smile back, grateful. It was like a dance, a polite exchange that led to something far more intimate than any of them realized. She'd listen carefully to their complaints, offer advice, suggest a remedy. But what they didn't know was that she didn't just suggest regular treatments. She had her own special ingredients, medications that could heighten a man's senses, make him more pliable, more trusting. Lena had access to a vast array of prescription drugs. Some were meant for legitimate medical purposes, others were not. She had learned the subtle art of manipulating substances, adding just enough of a compound into a man's drink, his food, whatever they were sharing. The results were predictable, and always in her favor.
One evening, David, a handsome young executive, walked into the pharmacy. He was tall, confident, the kind of man who was used to being the center of attention. But that was the thing about people like him. They were never as secure as they looked. They wore their success on the outside, but underneath, they craved validation. They wanted someone to tell them they were special. That's where Lena came in. David came in regularly for small things, vitamins, flu shots, cold medicine. She had built rapport with him over time, always with that same careful smile, listening attentively to his life stories. She learned about his job, his relationships, his insecurities, the pieces she needed to make him hers. One evening, he came in later than usual, looking a little worn out, the weight of his day clearly on his shoulders. Lena noticed this immediately. She handed him a bottle of multivitamins, slipping in a small vial of liquid, the perfect dose of a mild aphrodisiac, something that would loosen him up. It wasn't enough to knock him out. No, this was about control, about getting him to trust her, to need her. "So, how's your day been?" she asked, her voice almost a whisper now, low and inviting. He sighed, leaning in a little closer than usual. "It's been a long one, honestly. I don't know how I'm still standing." She smiled, sensing the opportunity. "You deserve to relax. A good night's sleep might be all you need," she said, handing him a small bottle with a pleasant-looking label. "Take these, they'll help you wind down." He nodded, his eyes grateful. He trusted her. And why wouldn't he? She was the professional, the one who always had the answers. But what David didn't know was that Lena wasn't offering just any sleep aid. No, her secret was in the dosage. Just enough to make him trust her completely. Just enough to make him come back.
Lena's life outside the pharmacy was nothing like what her colleagues imagined. She wasn't just a good listener. She was a strategist, a predator in a world full of sheep. She liked the control. She liked knowing that she could manipulate a man without him even realizing it. She'd slip into his world, seduce him with kindness, make him feel important. And then, when his guard was down, she'd use her knowledge of drugs to bend his will. David was no different. After their initial encounter, he started visiting her more frequently, always seeking advice on something: his insomnia, his lack of energy, his relationships. She was there, always patient, always professional. But behind her eyes was a different plan. She played the long game. The pills she gave him worked like magic. He felt better, more alive, more in control. But with every dose, he was slipping further into her web. And when he asked for something stronger, something that would help him relax, Lena knew it was time to take the next step. She prepared the cocktail, just a little more potent this time.
One night, after dinner at a restaurant, David asked her to join him at his apartment. The invitation was casual, but there was something in his voice, something desperate. He needed her, in a way he didn't fully understand. Lena agreed, her heart steady, her mind calculating. She knew exactly what she needed to do. At his apartment, she offered him a drink. He was already relaxed, the effects of her earlier pills still swirling in his bloodstream. She handed him a glass of wine, her fingers brushing against his. She watched his pupils dilate slightly. The next step was critical. "I know a way to help you sleep even better," she said, her voice soft, suggestive. "It requires trust." He looked at her, his expression softened by the effects of the drug. "I trust you," he whispered, as if she were the only one who could fix him. She smiled. This was it. She had him. But it wasn't enough to just have him trust her. She needed to keep him on the hook, so she handed him the next vial. "What's this?" he asked, his voice slow, as if his mind were slipping in and out of clarity. "It's a new formula," she said, her eyes locking with his. "It'll make you feel incredible. You won't regret it." He drank without hesitation.
The next morning, David woke up with a headache, a fog in his mind, and a sinking feeling in his chest. Something didn't feel right, but he couldn't place it. He looked over at Lena, who was already awake, her smile as bright as ever. He didn't remember much of the night before, but there was one thing he couldn't shake, a feeling that something had been done to him, something he couldn't control. Lena's smile didn't waver. She had what she needed. And just like every other man before him, David had fallen into her trap without even realizing it. But as Lena watched him leave, she felt something shift inside her. A flicker of guilt? No, it wasn't guilt. It was just a deeper hunger. She had played the game, and now she wanted more.
David didn't return to Lena after that night. He stopped coming to the pharmacy, stopped answering her calls. It was the first time she'd ever felt rejected by a man, and it stung. She didn't stop, though. She didn't give up. She never did. Lena knew the power she held. She had the knowledge, the ability to break a man's will, and she was determined to use it. She knew she could get him back. All it would take was one more dose, one more push. But David had woken up. He started to piece things together. He confided in a friend, a therapist, someone who helped him see the pattern. It took time, but David finally realized what Lena had done to him. The drugs, the manipulation, the lies. And when he confronted her, it wasn't with anger. It was with calm, measured disbelief. "You used me," he said, his voice steady. "You used me, and I let you." The realization hit her harder than any pill. For the first time, she was exposed. But this wasn't the end. It wasn't defeat. Lena didn't run. She didn't flee. She smiled that same practiced smile because she knew this was only the beginning. She would find another target, and this time she would be even more careful.
Lena stood behind the pharmacy counter. People came, bought their medications, and left. Life went on. And somewhere in that world was a story built from notes, meetings, conversations, and nights. She would continue to play the game. And if someone called her a predator, she would only smile and respond, "I'm a player." And she would continue. No, just another night, another route, another opportunity to make the world a little more her own. Playing doesn't mean destroying. It means knowing how to move in chaos and turn it into your path. I'll stay in the game, and the game will continue.